Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Shape the World with Yemi, your host. But as you can see, we have very special leaders with us today, and we're going to get to them very quickly. A few points of note. Shape the World is a conversation between people who, despite whatever your daily reality is, you're always willing to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. You care about local issues, you care about global issues. So thank you for joining. You also know that with Shape the World, the audience doesn't just participate, the audience drives. So if you don't ask questions, this is going to be a very dry and dull interaction. So I hope you're ready to shape the world. Now, also on housekeeping, this is just like any public event. So there's a degree of trust here in the sense that anybody could walk in and start, posting nonsense or shouting. Don't worry, security is briefed and they will leave the house soon. But just please bear with us if that happens. For everyone who joins, please let's honor this trust system. So thank you for joining because we're in the midst of a pandemic. This is not easy for anybody, and you've taken the time to join. I want to say a special thank you to our speakers today for two things. Number one, they've stepped away during the pandemic to think and to share. So thank you for that. But number two, they've opened themselves up to this open format. They can get any question about anything. Can you see their hearts beating? So thank you for opening yourselves up to this format. So if we could just maybe say hello for the optics. Can we all kind of wave at the camera? Thank you. What I'd love to do, and audience, please get ready. I'm coming to you next with your any kind of first comments or thoughts or questions. And you can actually, if you have a comment or question, you can post it in the feed. You can use either the chat, especially if it's just a comment. But if it's a question, please use the Q&A button in the middle of your screen so we can really see the questions. But I'm coming to you next. But first, I'd love to ask our distinguished panel to please give us just a brief intro, at least your name, tell us what city you're in, and tell us what your organization does, or what you do, whichever you prefer. Is that okay? And can we start with Asheesh? Asheesh, please lead us.
Well, thank you, Yemi. Thank you for putting all this together so quickly. My name is Asheesh Advani. I run an organization called JA Worldwide with an amazing team of colleagues from all over the world. I'm particularly excited to be here today because many of all of the other panelists are alumni of JA Junior Achievement Programs from around the world and have done entrepreneurship programs. And that's one of the core pillars of what JA does all over the world. And as I hope to make in my comments later on in the session, I believe that this is the time when we need to actually invest more in entrepreneurship because job creation will be a very important priority as this crisis starts to impact the world and unemployment starts to rise. So thank you. It's my honor to be here. It's good to see you again, Yemi.
Great, same here. Thank you, Asheesh. I just go in the order. Actually, if I do that, then the women come last. So I'll go in the other order. Audrey, please, please introduce briefly. Thank you.
Thank you, Yemi. Hello, everyone. My name is Audrey Mzondo. I'm from Bulawayo, Zimbabwe. I'm the Vice President for Junior Achievement Africa Alumni Network. I'm also a youth mentor in my community. So I work with supporting and mentoring young people. And I'm currently working with school leavers. So I'm supporting them in their entrepreneurship skills and the road to becoming better people in their communities. So that's what I'm currently working on.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Audrey. Thank you and welcome. Maria?
Hi, everybody. I'm Maria. I'm a founder of Edumus, which is helping working professionals to go to schools to teach part-time. However, for the past few weeks, now more than a month, I've been working on helping students to get devices all over Estonia so they could study at home.
Great. Thank you very much. Joonas?
Thanks, Yemi. So I'm Joonas Ahola, the CEO and founder of MeetingPackage, based in Helsinki, Finland. So shortly, MeetingPackage provides a software for hotels and event spaces that enables them to sell their meeting rooms online as easy as they sell their bedrooms or any other travel. So in short, providing instant booking capabilities and transparency in price for meeting rooms and event services.
Excellent. Great. That's another front line, I would say. So thank you so much. Christian, over to you.
Thank you. My name is Christian Erfurt, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Be My Eyes. We are based in Aarhus in Denmark and also in the US. Be My Eyes is a global community connecting blind and visually impaired people to sighted volunteers via live video connection. So you can be their eyes and help them whatever task they need. We do that for 200,000 blind and visually impaired people, and with supported by 3.7 million volunteers globally.
Wow, that is powerful. Thank you. And that definitely is another front line. So thank you so much for taking the time. All right, thank you, everybody. We're ready. And audience, another reminder, I am coming to you now. So please post any comments in the chat or questions in the Q&A button. We see we have a question already. Awesome, thank you. So please, I'm coming to you in a second. Now, just a reminder, our conversation today is about a world post this pandemic. Are we headed for a new normal? And what kind of world could we build? What kind of world could we build post this pandemic? All right, so thank you. Again, the pandemic is real. It's affecting all of us. And so we're taking time now, if you like, just to think and get ahead of the curve if we can. I also want to say happy World Immunization Day. I know it's a week that stretches out, but that's also super relevant, especially since people say, some people say, whether or not we have a vaccine might define the ability to go back to normal. We'll see. So I'm happy World Immunization Day. And of course, Ramadan Kareem to anybody who's fasting. Thank you for spending your precious energy on this call. All right, so before we go to the panelists, audience, I want to see a comment or a question. I want to see a comment or a question. Please post a comment or a question in the chat. We have 2 questions. Thank you. If you've missed this, this is Shape the World. You can't just sit back and do nothing. So we want to see a comment or a question. It doesn't matter how silly it is. If you like, I don't know, if you like Christian's beard, can I do that, Christian? Is that okay?
Of course you can.
If you like Christian's beard, say great beard. I just put that in the chat. We want to see that you're there. This is Shape the World. It's different. So please post a comment. It's going to be a new world. Thank you, Laolu. Excellent. Active stuff. Please post a comment in the chat or post a question with the Q&A button. We didn't come here to talk to ourselves. I want to see some more. Cesar. Thank you, Cesar. Cesar Jimeno, maybe? What can be done to particularly improve the situation of young people not in education, employment, or training during the crisis? Good point. We're worried about them even when it's normal. How much more now? What are the views on their future? This one goes particularly to Asheesh. Thank you, Cesar. This is the right kind of behavior. So hi, thank you. Really nice to see all of you amazing people out there. Love it. You can show us love in the chat. So thank you. And Caroline actually said great beard, Christian. You can see that. So I'm putting that on the record. Thank you, Caroline. Okay, so to the panel, let's power on. I'd love to just ask, because I know this is affecting all of us, but if you're willing to share, and I know whatever details you're willing to share, how is the pandemic affecting you and your organization, whatever you'd like to share? And I'd love to go to Maria for that, if it's okay.
Yeah, sure. Well, Edumus is a quite young startup, so we have been working on it for a year now. And to be honest, once the pandemic hit and like the special situation was announced, then all our activities as we have done them so far stopped. We saw that we should channel our resources in Edumus right now for the project to provide all the students in Estonia and their families devices who don't have it yet, so they could fully participate in the distance learning. Because otherwise it doesn't really matter how many cool edtech startups or teachers we have if they don't have access to it. So for a month, we were full on working on a project called Every Student Online, and we are only now getting back on track with Edumus. But luckily, I must say we're really optimistic that everything will continue according to the plans we had before. But yeah, we are now richer with one really big experience.
Thank you very much for sharing, Maria. And how quickly did it take you to, I guess, respond to, you know?
Well, the computers project kind of started 3 days after the special situation was announced. And I must say in Estonia, we are very lucky over here because we had lots of private donors and lots of companies who were ready to donate their devices. So it took us about a month to reach as many like families who could be reached via schools or local governments or them contacting themselves. So as I hear now, it's just maybe 1 or 2 families per week who like still are reaching out to the project. However, most of the impact we managed to do in a month. And now we have actually also given this initiative over to a local, really well-established NGO. So it's like impact will last hopefully forever.
Great, thank you so much, Maria. Did you have to make any difficult choices? And I don't know the answer to this question. I'm just digging.
Well, for me, like, and for Edumus people, it wasn't too difficult to start on working this new project because it went really well according to our values and everything we have been doing so far. However, I must say that it has been quite difficult to get back on track with Edumus because for a month we really were working like day and night on the computers project, and now trying to pick up the pieces of Edumus and start where we left off 1.5 months ago is a bit difficult, but we are managing well.
All right, thank you very much for sharing. Thank you. Next, I'd love to go to Joonas, but before we do, welcome anyone who's just joined. This is Shape the World, and I spotted Betty, who said she's super excited. This is her first Shape the World. So welcome, Betty. Thank you for joining us. This is really good behavior that you posted a comment in the chat. So for everybody, please, good behavior. Let's participate. Post in the chat, and if you have questions, I can see it lighting up. That's excellent. Use the Q&A button and post the question so we see it. So we're coming for more from you shortly. Joonas, please, if you're willing to share anything, has this pandemic, or how has this pandemic affected you?
Yeah, sure. Of course, this pandemic has hit the kind of hospitality and travel industry quite hard, as where there's a lot of restrictions and forbidden, like travel is forbidden in general. Large gatherings are forbidden. Hotels have needed to close their doors, laid off staffs, etc. So kind of due to the fact that our customer base is primarily driven by hotels and event spaces, and these specific things are, let's say, forbidden, that of course impacts our customer base and our use cases of our software. But having said that, we also see kind of the other side of the pie, that now hotels, due to the downtime, have a little bit more time to look at their infrastructure, their technology, their digital innovations, kind of what are the things in the hotel today that could be automated, digitalized, etc. as we go forward, not only during this period, but as going forward, that hotels could technically or theoretically avoid this situation to some extent in the future if this happens, because there would be digital solutions out there, like digital check-ins or booking tools or technologies, etc. So all of these kind of we see, but also the fact that hotels and event spaces have a little less resources to kind of invest today, which means that companies such as ourselves need to be there for the hotels, allowing services to be implemented with as low cost and investment as possible in the beginning.
Okay, thank you. You've made that sound like it all happened like that. So, is there anything you're willing to share? I mean, how quick was it for you to respond?
Well, let's put it like this. It's an ongoing process always that as a software technology company, nothing is ready by default. But also the fact that we are a global company and we have global customer base. So we saw this pandemic hit a little bit earlier than, let's say, other companies. So we, of course, started to react already in the Asian markets to something that we can actually scale within the European markets and US markets and so on. So it wasn't kind of, when Finland was in lockdown, for example, or started the pandemic started here, it meant that we already saw that coming earlier than technically companies that are only based in Finland. Okay. So we had a long period, let's say we've been already 3 months or 2.5 months at least doing stuff with implementing services that actually help this and help us as a company to survive.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Okay. I love that we have such good behavior. So thank you all. This is wonderful. I think we should keep knocking off these questions. So let's follow the trail. We have brilliant questions waiting for us, and let's bring in more people. So Caroline, thank you so much. Caroline is asking what a new normal would look like. And so Caroline, if I may crave your indulgence, I want to rephrase your question, and hopefully we'll cover it too. Can I ask, in the spirit of Caroline's question, to what extent is a new normal emerging? Right? To what extent is a new normal emerging? And you can say yes or no, but hey, you have to do better than that. Please give us any signs you see that you think are pointing to a new normal. And don't worry, you can answer this question more than once. So you can share something that's top of the mind, and you can say, hey, I want to go again. So Asheesh, I actually want to come to you with this question. Is the new normal emerging, yes or no? And then maybe share with us any signs you see, and you can have another bite of the cherry. So Asheesh?
Sure, I'll be very quick here because I want to make sure my fellow panelists get to talk. I will say that I genuinely believe that there's some fundamental behaviors that will change as a result of this crisis, even if it's a shorter crisis than people think. I think it's already in some parts of the world been long enough for behavior changes to kick in. I think the easiest one for all of us to envision is people getting more comfortable with technologies such as Zoom or communication that's more digital, or the need to travel maybe less than they thought they used to in the past. But even beyond that, I'll call it first order effect. I think there's a number of second order effects. One of the questions in the chat is about, do you think kids will regress socially during this period of isolation? And how can we actually encourage young people to continue to have these social bonds during the crisis? I think what we'll learn through this crisis is by having young people be in groups of 2 to 4 kids, as opposed to in a classroom with 30 kids who are all online. Social interaction can actually happen digitally in groups of 2 to 4. At JA, we've learned that through our company program, which many of the people in this panel have gone through. When you organize into small groups, deep bonds are created between team members, and people start to self-reflect about their own strengths. They start to confront challenges and build resilience. There's a number of questions about how to build resilience. I'm really interested in what the panel thinks about whether the new normal can actually allow us to be more resilient, because we've learned to pivot during a crisis. Some entrepreneurs don't really learn that until they live it. Yeah. And I guess my belief is a new normal will actually increase our resilience as society, allow us to be more comfortable with digital. And my genuine hope is that it will also allow young entrepreneurs to be able to take their passion for social entrepreneurship, which they already have, young entrepreneurs do, and allow it to blossom into helping society because I think now that opportunity for these young entrepreneurs to actually build a more just and equitable society is more possible than ever before.
Brilliant. That's really powerful. And Asheesh did a lot, as usual, in a very concise way. But I want to, so Mona, I was about to say Mona. Yes, that's Mona. So Mona, question has been answered. Thank you, Mona. You got a very good answer there from Asheesh. We also had Caroline. Asheesh already gave you some answers to what that new normal might look like. So thank you very much. And then when it comes to Yemi's question, Asheesh also answered it, but I'm still going to be a sucker for a yes or no. So just to get you on record, is a new normal emerging?
Yes.
Thank you. Powerful. All right. Thank you very much. So Yemi's happy too. Who would like to take that? I think Christian, can I bring you in on the Yemi question of is a new normal emerging for you? Yes or no, or maybe?
Yes.
And then what kind of signs or evidence would you like to cite?
So I think there's many layers of this new normal. One is that we all realize how globally connected we are. This is this is so clear that it's reaching all of us because we are globally connected. And I hope a result of that is also that we have a global consciousness, that we see that our actions have reactions to the world. I really liked Asheesh's point of making it work in smaller groups, because like if you're isolated, you have to make it work, whether that's in a school class in a group of 4 people. I mean, there's some really good learnings coming through via this. But if I may, sorry, if I may take it up on a higher notch, I hope that we also see that the greatest challenges also come great opportunities, come as greatest opportunities, and that maybe the problems is not only going to be solved by governments, it will be solved by emerging startups that are design thinking, because we have so many clearly defined problems popping up every day, every minute, all around in any sector with this new normal. And the beauty of the design thinking is that if you have a clearly defined problem or need, there's a quick action or path to turning that into an opportunity. I think beyond being globally connected, I'm proud to see how we are all respecting authorities. I know there's some outbursts, a couple of places in the US that we're not so proud of, but like we as a global humankind are respecting the authorities and saying this is the only way to beat it is to isolate ourselves and let it run out. And I think it's beautiful to see that the world is just following the guidance.
Okay, good. I wasn't sure. So you're saying we're respecting the authorities. You're saying we are or we aren't? We are.
We are.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Now, I think since this is the headline topic that united all of us, I'd actually love to hear from each of you on this. So Audrey, you're next. Please, yes or no, is a new normal emerging? And what are you seeing that you want to cite?
Okay. I'll say it's emerging, yes, definitely. The signs are all over there. Have you seen there's high increment in unemployment rates? We've seen most companies retrenching people, laying off people. And as a result, now more than ever, there's need for people to venture into entrepreneurship. So the new normal is going to see a lot of young people, venturing into entrepreneurship. So it's time for them to be innovative, equipped with the necessary skills. And I believe most importantly, government should then also put in place policies that are going to support the new normal, because these young people are the same people that are going to create employment. Like Christian said, that these startups are the ones that are going to sustain our economies. So I believe in as much as we're facing unemployment rates currently, this new normal is going to allow these entrepreneurs to sustain our economy. So now more than ever, we should then equip them with the necessary skills, with the necessary resources, and the support that they need. So moving forward, entrepreneurship is the way to go in the new normal. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. And just to maybe throw a curveball in there, most countries already have 90-95% rates in terms of SMEs dominating the corporate landscape. And already today, people complain about big companies having too much power. Now, if the new normal means 90-95% goes to 99% SMEs, is this also going to mean that that 1% will have even more power?
I wouldn't say so. I'd say if they're equipped with the necessary skills, if we're skilled enough, we'll be able to take over that 1%. Because at the end of the day, for SMEs and for individuals, entrepreneurs, for them to succeed, they need to be equipped with the right skills. So rightfully so, what we are doing on my side is maybe equipping these young people from a very young age to know what then to do when they formulate and when they start up their own SMEs. So with the right skills and with the right experience, they'll be able to, to put out that 1%. It's not going to be easy, but it's something that can be done. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining. Please, I can see the questions coming in. Please keep the comments coming as well. For this first question, I did really want to get a view from everyone. So Joonas, you're next, and then Maria. So yes or no, is a new normal emerging? What evidence do you want to cite?
Yes, I do believe so. To which extent, that's to be seen. But at least I a little bit taking Asheesh's words here that the digital transformation, I do believe it is here to stay in larger corporates. And also the fact that if we look at like public researches and kind of the feedback in general about working from home, for example, that has been a big topic. Like earlier, bigger, larger corporations didn't allow that or wasn't part of their company policy. Yes. And now once it's kind of forced in a sense, yes, companies are starting to understand that the efficiency, for example, hasn't dropped. Vice versa, actually, in some reports, the efficiency has increased by individual people when working from home with less distractions and so forth. And I do believe that the kind of working from home culture or working from anywhere culture is becoming a new normal from that side of it, which again then reflects to the fact that how much, let's say, for example, company offices are in central cities where the rents are high, how many are going to more move to kind of open office / co-working perspective, or even then renting out meeting and event spaces, for example, on demand rather than paying a rent for them on a day-to-day basis when the utilization is low. And interesting. Also what I think about is that, for example, domestic travel should or will be kicking up first, and people will kind of, in Finland, for example, travel within Finland as a first step, and people will start to understand a little bit more things around their own country because it's much more easy to approach. Maybe the borders are open internally rather than externally. Yes. And hotels and, let's say, hospitality companies will be growing from domestic travel more than international travel perspective.
Wow. That is a lot. So yes, so that's another yes. Thank you so much, Joonas. I think it could be a game changer. I think you kind of said you foresee less demand for traditional office space.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is like we're here now, people around the world doing it on a digital perspective. People are going to Teams, Slack channels, etc. Kind of the internal communication within companies has improved so much that it's not anymore needed to have everyone within the same premises. Yeah. And also the fact, if we look at it, there's even a memes in LinkedIn and so on, kind of what was the reaction or what was the reason for going to digital transformation, like CEO, CFO, or COVID-19? Yes. That's where we are kind of. In some cases, it needs this kind of pandemic for people to realize that now it's time to move. It's like we need to react now, not in the next 3-4 years.
Okay, powerful. Thank you. All right, Maria, your turn. Yes or no, new normal?
Definitely. And just like employment, I would say in education also, no one ever thought that education can be so digital and student-centered until we had to do it in just a couple of days.
Yeah.
And just like Joonas said, that like offices in this traditional sense will not be in that much demand. I see that the meaning of schools, for example, starts to change as well, because if we now can see that students can easily study from home or wherever they are at the pace that and the times that they have chosen, then
Yes.
I see that schools in future will be more like co-learning spaces. So if you want to go to schools to study and learn or do group works, then you have that choice. However, school is not the place where you, I don't know, sit in different classes from 9 to, I don't know, 3 p.m. or something.
Interesting, yeah.
So definitely, I'm looking forward to the times where students can get together if they want to, but also study at their own pace and like take most advantage of the solutions that we already have, however, which education system hasn't been able to take advantage of yet.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Now, I'm going to ask the panelists, if we can, and the audience actually as well, if you can please post comments for the audience. New normal, yes or no? And if you think yes, tell us some of what you are seeing. What for you is making you feel like there's a new normal coming? So we'll give you a shout out. Everybody will hear your comments. Of course, it's recorded there, but we'll also do it for video. So please, yes or no, new normal, and what kind of evidence are you seeing? Now, I want to ask the panelists to maybe raise the temperature a little bit while we're waiting for that. Of the evidence you're seeing right now during the pandemic, what worries you particularly? If you're willing to share, what worries you? What is, even if it's not polite, what actually worries you particularly? And when you feel ready to share, please give me a sign and I'll come to you when you feel ready to share. What worries you particularly?
I can jump in if there's
Thank
silence.
You,
so one thing that really worries me is that national interests as opposed to global collaboration is becoming, it appears to be becoming kind of more and more relevant for example, the education authorities. The ministries of education are now looking at themselves as, we need to look inward, not look outward. And if there were ever a time to recognize that we're a globally connected world where something that happens in one geography can impact other geographies, this is such an obvious example, this crisis. Having said that, national interests are becoming tighter and tighter. And I really do worry that unless civil society and unless young people like those on this call speak up about sort of advocating for education curricula to have global thinking be part of the curricula, we will have a world which is kind of less connected, not more connected.
Great stuff. Thank you, Asheesh. So there's an opportunity before us, but there's no guarantee that this opportunity is going to get us on the right path. So thank you for that. Please, we're trying to raise the temperature. So really, anything that particularly worries you, panelists, we'd love you to please share that particularly worries you. Joonas, you look ready.
Yeah, I have a short one, but primarily, or looking at our industry, the hotel and hospitality and travel industry in general, I think the biggest worry here is that how long and when will this kind of start to normalize, which has been on everyone's lips during the last months and weeks because of our industry. Of course, it needs the business travel. It needs the people to fly to get the utilization up in the hotels because there's not enough demand in a city-wise, etc. Even though the hotels would pivot to a lot of, let's say, opening their rooms to co-working or for office spaces, etc., then that would still not serve the purpose from a commercial perspective for the hotels and restaurants and so on. So the biggest question is, how long will this still last, which is to be seen. But I think that's something that we are waiting and waiting, and we are doing things that benefit us when the new, let's say, things start to normalize, but nobody still yet sees or knows when this will be exactly. So I think that's the scare factor that companies such as ourselves, of course, have, as well as our customers like hotels and restaurants.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Thank you. Who else wants to share? I think Audrey, I saw your hand just as Joonas was starting. So if you're ready to share, please, something that's worrying you particularly.
What's worrying me is most young people now have to go digital. So that's a struggle for people who come from marginalized communities, marginalized young entrepreneurs. So now they're going to need to have, they'll really need to have the support and assistance from the government, and most of them are getting assistance from global companies. But now, since that's going to be shut down, it's going to take a while as well. So for me now, maybe it's also an opportunity for them to now be more innovative, to start, their businesses, they should be more digitalized. However, the challenge is still going to be there because they're not going to receive the support that they need. So for me, that really worries me a lot. But I guess it's going to take a while, but eventually it'll work out.
Thank you. And that is connected, of course, to Cesar's comment earlier about people not in education, employment or training, not necessarily marginalized, but again, they're on the edge of employment in normal times. So thank you. Christian, you actually look really worried.
That's just my resting face. It made me think, one of the comments coming in the chat from, I can't unfortunately pronounce the name as it's just 8 digits, but addressing the mental and emotional issues. There's a two-sided part to the enforced social distancing and isolation. The upside of it is that you get to spend time with your family, which is a beautiful thing for those who have. But for those who don't, I worry about the tail of the mental well-being of many people who have been isolated for long periods. Loneliness is, although we are globally connected, many people are more lonely than ever before. So there's so many layers that we need to readdress, and maybe coming back to turning that into opportunities for those who are with the entrepreneurial spirit in here. There's also there is of course the opportunity right out of that as well. But so I worry about that for one, and misinformation. I see that it's super scary to see deniers and naysayers disbelieving that this is real and this is a hoax and everything. That scares the out of me. We need constructive journalism to be accurate and a foundation for our society to believe what we have as a fact. And there's difference between facts and opinions, and we should also very often lean in on opinions, but at least be able to establish a common denominator based on facts and good journalism.
Great stuff. Thank you, Christian. There's a lot of power in there, and you got a lot of nods and people posting as well. I think Laolu said, Christian, very, very true. More family time. Thank you for that. Such good behavior. I'm loving it. So let's make the most of it. Maria, your turn, please. Something that's really worrying you, even if it's not polite.
Well, it will be polite, sorry. but yeah, I to some extent agree with Christian, and I was thinking the same, that those negative emotions and fear and stress is something which keep people from taking advantage of this special situation. And what I would really like to for both people and governments to do is, instead of just fighting fires, to take advantage of this opportunity for developmental leap. And for example, people who either are temporarily or permanently now unemployed, it would be amazing if they would, for example, start developing their skills, but that again requires this mental stability and well-being. And on the other hand, basic income, that they would have food on their tables. So yeah, if the governments can't make sure of that, then unfortunately it won't change anything for better.
Thank you very much. That's very powerful as well. Thank you so much. Okay, so maybe at this point, people are still joining. A point of housekeeping. If anything happens and I get disconnected, Asheesh has kindly agreed to keep the charge going. So Asheesh will moderate until I can reconnect. And if for some strange reason I can't, he'll lead us to the promised land, the end of the conversation. So thank you. The second thing is the panelists have agreed that because, of course, this is a larger panel than usual, and we have such an engaged audience, they've all agreed to stay on up to an additional 30 minutes. So we can have 90 minutes in total. So don't worry, we're pacing ourselves because we know we have that time. Thank you for your powerful comments. Oladele Johnson, the mental health of people is also important. Thank you. We're coming to this very shortly. Thank you for your comments in the chat. Asheesh, I want to give you a heads up. I want to keep knocking off questions. So Asheesh, I'm going to ask you to please address, when I'm back, Cesar's question about what can be done specifically for people not in education, employment, or training during the crisis. What are views on this one? So Asheesh will take this one right after this important break so that we can look at people's responses in the chat. So I'd ask people, new normal, yes or no? And Oladele Johnson, you said yes, new normal. Thank you very much. Moreni Care said yes, definitely, even a new world order. Thank you. Phil in J Zim said new normal, yes. E-commerce is being amplified. So is e-governance. I think that's the first, oh, it's not the first time we use the word governance, but I think that's quite important for our conversation. Travel, tourism, summer might just go digital or virtual. Sounds like a joke now, but hey, we may not be laughing soon. So thank you. I'm looking for more yeses or nos. Absolute yes from 773828. If you would like to give us your name, we will give you a shout out. So you can rename your account to your name so we can give you a shout out. But 773828, thank you for that comment. Absolutely yes to a new normal. I saw a no somewhere to a new normal. But let me see. For now, yes, new normal, more digitalized world. Yes, new normal, yes. Thank you. Oh, that was me, sorry. I saw a no. Ah, there we go. Sorry, no. Oh, sorry. No old normal. Yes to new normal in a few months. Okay, man. That's a lot of yeses. It's possible we self-selected. I want to let you know that we have a poll that's out on social media. So those people did not join this conversation. And I'll tell you more about the poll in a second, but hopefully we can get some other voices to see what people are feeling. But while we're waiting for that, Asheesh, you got the mic now. Your thoughts on Cesar's question?
Sure, it's a very good question, and it's also, frankly, a very timely question. You know, I'll say that looking back even before this crisis, youth unemployment was already a material issue in many parts of the world. In many parts of the world, unemployment amongst young people is 20, 30, 40%. In much of the developed world, it was not that high. It was actually, in some places, almost negative because kids were in school or working and there was no job crisis at all. Now we have a situation where there is a jobs crisis everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So I think our dialogue around this is no longer it's their problem or it's not my problem, it's everyone's problem. So I do believe the importance of this topic is becoming now so globally relevant. And the good news is we actually have some concrete solutions. We've learned actually how to address the issue of youth unemployment. One very simple way to understand it is if you think about junior achievement, and we have now well over 100 million living alumni. If every single alumnus thinks of themselves as being capable of creating 5 jobs, 1 job for themselves and 4 jobs for others. In simple math, we would be able to, as just one organization, just one NGO, create 500 million jobs.
Wow.
In a world of 8 billion people, that's a significant dent in unemployment. And I believe JA is not unique. I believe every other NGO, every other even small nonprofit, every other for-profit, the work that Maria is doing and Audrey are doing are effectively very similar to what we do at Junior Achievement globally. And if everyone just thinks of their capability to allow young people to think of themselves as people who can build a job for themselves and others, as opposed to just thinking that they might have a career where they work for somebody else, or even if they choose to work for somebody else, they approach that from the perspective of value creation. If we look at what Christian and Joonas have done, they've created jobs for themselves and for others. And as role models, I believe that we at JA can connect great entrepreneurs like the panelists on this call to other young people, to just get them to change their mindset and be able to say, if they can do it, so can I.
Yeah.
The cost of doing so is also changing. So JA used to, effectively, it used to cost about $30 to impact a young person's mindset. To actually change a life and make them think of themselves as capable of being job creators costs $30. I personally believe that this crazy crisis, which is creating such cost-effective digital solutions, will allow us to lower that $30 to a much lower number. I don't want to quote a number on this call, but it'll be much lower. So I believe that it's even now more possible than ever to actually address this problem of youth unemployment. Does that make sense, Yemi?
Yes, I think that's powerful. I'm so happy you made the obvious connection back as well to youth unemployment. Does that also mean then the cost of education might go down?
Well, thankfully, the cost of education is free in most parts of the world. I do think this will put a lot of pressure on the cost of higher education. I believe that people are going to recognize now that there's a value of the education, there's a value of the degree, and there's a value of the social interaction. There are three different things. You've already seen a lot of newspaper articles in the last week or two about how some of the most expensive universities in the world are having to rethink their pricing model when the kids can't come back to campus.
I think that's powerful. I think that's powerful for the point Cesar made earlier about the people that we need to help. But I think that's also powerful in ways that maybe many people haven't connected the dots. This is going to affect a lot of people. And if you're a parent paying school fees somewhere, especially if you're saving for university costs, as Asheesh has pointed out, that might also change things. But also if you're someone who's looking to acquire a new skill, it might now be easier to do that.
But Yemi, just to this point. So the average young person is going to have well over 7 careers and well over 20 jobs. We knew that before the crisis. So resilience in being able to move from job to job and career to career is still important, and even more important. The young people who are on this panel today, you've seen in their responses, they've all had to be resilient. They've all had to pivot. They've all had to change to react to circumstances. And that core skill of how do you learn to be a resilient, nimble entrepreneur or human, that's so important, and it's so hard to teach in a digital format. That's what worries me. And what also worries me is for all the young people in the world who don't have access to online tools and connectivity and broadband, I think we have to recognize that there have to be native solutions using devices that aren't connected. And how do we distribute those devices to people who otherwise would not have access and connectivity? Massive challenge.
Okay, awesome. I want to, again, keep knocking away at some of these questions because the audience is playing a good game here with great questions on topic. Our friend 773828 does have a relevant question. And I think any of you can take this. And Asheesh, sadly, I think we need to hear from you again. Well, thankfully, actually, we like to hear from you. But who else wants to crack at this? So how do we create a more effective online education, especially for primary and secondary school students? And then a second dimension, the same question. For third world nations, how do we help public schools in this regard? So we'll come to Asheesh shortly, but who wants that one? Maria, I know you could also help in there. You want to go?
Well, I can have my take on it. Firstly, I would say there are thousands of, I think it was 3,000 different online learning spaces and solutions already out there. The question and problem is that teachers are they don't have time to start implementing and trying them all out. So it's just a matter of firstly, maybe putting those solutions together to some extent, and also just trying to check them out. Nordic countries have just recently launched a page called teachmillions.org, I believe, where there are, I think, the largest amount of all learning solutions and edtech startups put together. So people who are interested can go take a look at these and start trying them out. And many of the tech startups have given their solutions out to be used for free for this crisis period. So this is definitely one place to start off.
Great, thank you. And Asheesh, did you want to comment on that question as well?
No, I think I want other panelists to keep going. I'll come back to it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anyone want to comment on that question? Audrey, I know you work with young people a lot and schools as well. So I don't know if you wanted to comment on that right now. Especially those, yeah?
No, go ahead, go ahead.
No, please, especially the second dimension also about for how do we help public schools, especially in third world countries or emerging economies?
Yeah, no, I think it's very important first to understand, you know, I appreciate that the infrastructures that are there don't really support, you know, these young people. They don't have the resources, they don't have the infrastructure. So moving forward, we need then people to donate as a start, to just have people who donate their devices and then they can help out, because what third world countries need is a long-term solution, because it's not going to happen overnight for these people to have these resources. So it's not a solution that we think it's going to wake up and we have, you know, laptops, we've got access to internet and so forth. So maybe just as a start, those few people can donate their devices, and like right now we're fortunate enough to have alumni and volunteers who volunteer in the J office, and they can go with their devices and help out. But it's something that the government can, you know, impose and have, like, again, like I said, policies to support those initiatives. So I think
thank you. That's an important point.
Yemi, I just want to do a shout out. There's a great organization called RUMIE, R-U-M-I-E. And what they do is they load educational content onto devices that don't need to be connected. So there are solutions to the availability of content. Obviously, that's only part of the solution and doesn't help everyone, but it is at least part of the solution. I will say we have to keep remembering that the way to actually change a life is not just about providing access to digital content. It's really about role models and about changing mindsets. We have another program in Paraguay called Poverty Spotlight, which actually allows young people to have role models to show them the way who are in extreme poverty. So I have a lot of hope and a lot of, I think, optimism for the future. Having said that, it's not going to be easy, and I think there is genuinely, look at the voices on this call, you know, we are all have some degree of privilege. I think having the voices heard of people who don't have this privilege is something which you've done so well, Yemi, and particularly for this question, which is how will the crisis impact the poorest of the poor? I think that, to me, is something which probably we should get some other voices on this call to answer as well. Brilliant,
thank you. And there is consensus. One of the most recent questions we just got says they're an anonymous attendee, but I want to take the question because it's actually on point with what we're discussing right now. So this person says, the question for Christian and Maria, and anyone else who wants to chime in, due to this pandemic, the most affected are those who are underprivileged, daily wage workers, or people living in slums in different parts of the world. What measures can we take as a community of change makers to make sure that they do not drown during this pandemic while we adapt to a new normal? As Asheesh just said, we are all in this together. Thank you, anonymous attendee. Please do drop your name so we can give you a shout out if you want. But let's answer the substance of the question. And he or she has asked for Christian and Maria to please chime in. So if you're ready, Christian or Maria.
I'm glad they get the tough ones, Yemi. I'm glad they get the tough ones. All right, Christian.
I agree that the biggest challenge is for those who are underprivileged, and that we in particular need to come up with solutions and services that will help through this. We are all in this together. And I might go, so I fundamentally believe that the successful companies of the future, creating the new codex moments, are the ones that will be able to enable us as consumers to be part of bigger solutions rather than just being part of consumption problems. And what I mean by that is, we know that we brought the world to where it is on a climate basis. we know that our consumption brought us to where we are today.
Yeah.
And I think that the change makers and the ones that will create the future Kodak moments for some of these major old giant companies is the ones that enables the consumers to be part of greater, bigger solutions. So if my consumption with whatever product or service also adds an element of relief for those who are underprivileged or assists them, we as a group, I believe, will move towards being part of these solutions. So I have a strong belief that the purpose and profit business models will be the new normal standard, because we are so eager to be part of solutions rather than being indirectly blamed for being part of problems.
Brilliant.
And
Thank
so
you so
it might not answer the question directly, but I think that the models that will evolve from this will hopefully enable us to broaden out a security network for those who are in need by our consumption.
No, thank you. I do think some of the comments and that you've made as panelists, but also from the chat feed, have talked a lot about entrepreneurship and the importance of that. But what you said now says that we might even see more social entrepreneurship in terms of the kind of business models that will evolve right now. So
I think it's important to say purpose and profit can follow it. Like there's room for purpose and profit businesses. It's not either purpose or profit.
Great.
It's if you come up with ecosystem focused business models that will enable you to it will create a competitive advantage. And I think that some of the old giants have been leaning back and forgetting like the effect of what they were doing. So I think purpose and profit is a new standard. I don't think it's just social impact or any other, I don't want to reduce it to that. I think it's the powerful competitive advantage of the future.
Yemi, Christian had a really great point he made in our previous prep call about sticking to his values and something about sailing and ships. He did it so well. Christian, I mean, just hearing you talk right now, I'd like you to share your comment with everyone, because I think it's so relevant to what you're saying now.
Yeah.
So thank you. It was a quote by one of our professors at the university who said that during the intense storm, we build ships. So we wait until we can go back out and sea. And I think that's a simple but powerful statement of saying we have to reevaluate. It's tempting to pivot again and again. And of course you should be focusing on short-term cash and liquidity as corporations, but it's also a chance to pause and look up and say, are we aligned with our values? Are we aligned with our core values and beliefs in what's right and wrong? I hope that covered some of the elements of it.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. Thank you so much. Maria, please, if you can also come in on this.
I will look at it from a more like social and even like not so entrepreneurial aspect when it comes to creating businesses, but rather just as you already mentioned, customers are part of the solutions, or I would say people are part of the solution. And in Estonia, for example, as well, we saw that there was a problem. Students didn't have devices at home to do distance learning. So governments at this moment need help too. So there was a bunch of people who were ready to step up and help the government to provide devices actually instead of the government. So there was a critique that why the Ministry of Education should do that. However, they were so busy working with everything else. So it was really good that there were initiatives, our initiative, many other initiatives in other fields that kind of people stepped up and started helping. And coming back to the comment already before, is that now these days the problems are so clear. So changing the world is easier than ever before. Like changing the world for at least some people is easier than ever before. So I would encourage all the people who have or see some kind of problem somewhere just to step up themselves and start working on them, because if they don't do it, then there might be nobody doing it.
Very, very powerful comment. Thank you.
May I
Please,
add an element to the
yes.
Purpose and profit? Be My Eyes didn't have a business model for the first 3 years of our existence, and we're 5 years in now. So there was a long time where we were tempted to grab low-hanging fruits in how to monetize, but we had a very simple but powerful design sentence that I'd like to share with the group.
Please.
It's simply saying, everybody wins only when nobody loses. And if you look at business models and compare them to sport, if you and I were in a tennis match, for me to win, you have to lose.
Yeah.
And that mentality has been transisted into the business model and many of the business models we've created. But to take an approach saying everybody wins only when nobody loses, I have to look at you as a fellow in my ecosystem and say,
Yeah.
how can I create value for Yemi and for me and for everybody else in our little value in our little ecosystem. And for Be My Eyes, we succeeded at it, but it's not easy. It's not the first iteration. If it was easy, like everybody would be doing it, but it takes some curiosity and patience to build these ecosystem designed business models, and that's that's core element of what I meant by purpose and profit before. If you do it with authenticity and it's core to the company, you'll blow out your competition, because we as consumers, we as global citizens want to support those organizations, and it can be purpose and profit.
Beautifully put. Thank you so much. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Christian. You got lots of nods as you were responding, and if you missed it, you'll see it in the recording, but also in the feed. Caroline agrees. She says part of the new normal is also an immense swell in the power of collaboration. So this idea that everybody wins when no one loses, we're looking out for it. And if you missed it, Christian is also predicting this continued evolution in consumer patterns, where people are really looking for organizations with a sense of purpose, weather storms, and continue to add value and share prosperity. So thank you very much. I want to, there's something I do with when I'm one-on-one, which I want to do with a bigger group. And it's a bit of a blitz session where we take questions and you have to answer fast. So let's try this, but I will still try to keep a thread going. I think one of the threads we haven't dug in much into yet is this idea of entrepreneurship, which has come up. So let's go there a little bit. So let's see. The issue though is a lot of these questions are so profound, it's almost unfair to ask you these questions in a blitz. So I'm sorry in advance, but let's go there. So one question I'll take is so Morenike has asked the question, this hopefully is an easy one. Does JA have a knowledge base that can assist young people in making choices in entrepreneurship? Asheesh, that sounds like you.
Yes, but it's not done.
Okay. When you say it's not done, you mean it's not ready to share, or it's not yet good enough?
It's a work in progress. Businesses are changing so fast that for us to be on top of all the choices young people have is probably a big thing. I think we're good at sort of choices like what career is right for you, not what entrepreneurial venture is right for you or what business model is right for you. So that's the longer answer to your, I think, very thoughtful question.
And that's a thoughtful, short answer. Thank you very much, Asheesh. Okay, another one from Laolu. What would happen to traditional direct sales in a new norm? So I'm either looking at Joonas or Christian.
Oh, Joonas has got to take this one. Come on, Joonas. What's going to happen to direct sales? I want to hear this answer.
Great. let's first put the question a little bit, Doug. What is direct sales in this matter? Like, are we talking about direct sales in kind of outbound sales, contacting directly the end customers, or are we talking about direct sales as in kind of traditional shops and etc.? Kind of, which angle do you want me to answer?
I take the second one.
Well, of course, direct sales will need to adapt based on the consumer behavior. So let's say traditional shops in Finland, for example, we've seen a lot of boom by the government supporting digital transformation for even kind of traditional shops, etc., selling their services online through then transportation companies, etc., which means again that their services are coming online. But I'm still thinking that that's actually direct sales or inbound sales, if we be a little bit more specific. But their channel changes to another place where they're available. So if you think about a door, which you normally go in a traditional shop, now you go into that shop virtually and making that decision. So for me, I consider that a little bit more as a direct sales. Also, the way it comes is inbound sales. So that's why I wanted a little bit specify that what is direct sales meant in this angle.
All right, thank you very much. Laulu actually posted, say he meant contacting directly, but I consider that answered. So thank you very much. All right, Tenny has a good one. My question is, how can developing countries benefit immensely from the fourth industrial revolution in the post-COVID-19 era? How can African countries accelerate technology entrepreneurship? That's a PhD dissertation. Now, who wants to go there?
Go ahead, Audrey. Take it. Come on, you can do it.
I'll attempt. I feel like we can see that that's where we're going as, you know, as young people, as entrepreneurs, and as the world as a whole. So it's important for young entrepreneurs to be taught those skills. For example, like what Jay is already doing, they already have programs that have been integrated to high schools where young people are being taught that. So young people should then be taught entrepreneurship skills and how to, you know, be digital and how to adopt digitalization and transformation. So if they're taught from a very young age, you know, when they become older and they have established their own businesses, they'll start making innovative businesses that are going to adopt those digitalization issues. So I think the matter of them being taught from a very young age, and I'm glad that Jay is already doing it with their company programs. And instead of that, they should also incorporate, you know, digital transformation. How can we be an entrepreneur and also incorporate digitalization? So, and then technology as well. So I don't know, maybe I've made myself clear that as entrepreneurs, they should then be taught from a young age, and then when they grow up, they'll be in a better position to do so, and we won't have these struggles that we have.
Thank you. Now, I think in the spirit of what you've just said, Audrey, we have a comment here from Morenike, which is building entrepreneurship for sustainability should begin in communities. And I think you kind of went there as well. Now, the question is, how closely is your organization working with local governments, knowing fully well that young people they need entrepreneurship. They must take advantage of entrepreneurship. So I guess, Audrey, you can come back on that. But I think Maria also said something about working with communities. How closely is your organization working with communities? Audrey?
I do a lot of volunteer work with JA Zimbabwe, and I'm glad to say they also work with the Ministry of Youth. So already some of the programs that they do are incorporated with the Ministry of Youth, and they support the initiatives that they have. So moving forward, they will be able to support and say, you know, for entrepreneurs to progress, this is what we have to do. For entrepreneurs to progress, these are the policies that we have to put in place. So I'm happy to say that that's being done. And most importantly, it really starts with the community, because we can't wake up and try to change the whole of Zimbabwe and the whole of Africa, but just maybe starting with the community and doing those small programs, and hopefully it will help out spread to the entire country and Africa as well.
Awesome, thank you. There's an Audrey love-in going on, so just one more Audrey question if it's okay. So Caroline has a question for you. I'd like to know if Audrey feels that African countries are seeing this crisis as an opportunity, or are we about to create even more inequality in the world?
I think to a certain extent, it's an opportunity for us to think outside the box, Because to be honest, Africa really reacted to this quite late. You know, we didn't think this pandemic was going to hit Africa the way it did, the way it's going to hit us, you know. So it's an opportunity for us to now say, moving forward, what can we do? We need to plan ahead. We need to think in terms of how best can we become digital? Because in most businesses, people were not thinking those terms. Like right now, most companies are struggling to, you know, venture into things like interacting via Zoom, interacting via Skype. So this pandemic has opened our eyes and made us, you know, want to invest in digitalization. So moving forward, I think, yes, it's a step back because it's going to take time, but it has really opened our eyes. If this had not happened, we wouldn't be thinking the way that we're now thinking. That for us to connect with the world, we need to invest in technology, we need to invest in digitalization. So yes, Carol, I think it really has helped us in as much as there's setbacks as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, Asheesh, you look like you want to say something.
I'll go super quick.
Please.
So inequality and this crisis, big topic, hard to dissect quickly, but I'll just kind of frame it this way. Think of this as three buckets: the richest 10%, the middle 80%, and the poorest 10%. We've had inequality rise over the last 2 decades substantially between the top 10 and the bottom 90, both the 80 and the lowest 10. I believe this crisis will actually reduce inequality between the top 10% and the middle 80. That inequality will get lower, but the thing I'm most concerned about is the lowest 10%, whether it's in Africa or really in any part of the world.
Yeah.
I believe there's a genuine risk that that lowest 10% will get left behind. So while inequality will improve and all the data will improve over the next decade, I still believe that if we don't think of the poorest of the poor and the lowest 10%, they have a real risk of actually being left behind.
Thank you very much. And you've touched upon Zainab's comment as well. Zainab was asking us to please highlight the crisis specifically in middle low-income countries. And I think you've collectively done that, but you've also gone inside these countries to talk about people who are in the bottom 10% within any specific society who could also get left behind. So Zainab, if that's okay with you, we'll mark that done. What I would love us to do, everybody, we're inside the last 15 to 18 minutes or so. So I'd like us to move to kind of the last phase of our conversation. And this is talking about what kind of world could we build post the pandemic. So we'll still answer specific questions, but let's start thinking about that, and you can put that into, weave that into your answer. What kind of world could we build? Now, I think Colleen has just the right question to help us segue into this space. So thank you, Colleen. So Colleen says, I love the idea of building a new normal and using this as an opportunity to change course. I was wondering how the panelists think we can hold on to our desire for a new normal when we are post-pandemic. In other words, how do we avoid complacency that may arise? So who wants this question? You've all been asked the Yemi question of what kind of world we should build, so get ready to answer. You're all gonna have to answer that. But who wants to take Colleen's question about complacency? How do we avoid complacency that may arise when this is over? Oh,
I can do it. I can do it, but I really don't want to. I think Christian is waiting, just waiting to tell us how he's not complacent. Come on, Christian. I'll put you. If you want 2 more minutes, I'll answer first, but I want you to go first if you can.
Oh, go ahead.
Please, Asheesh.
All right,
Please go
okay.
ahead. Please.
So,
thank you.
So people under the age of 20 are not complacent. Let me just start by saying that. Just by definition, if you're in high school or you're starting university, you are always thinking about what you want to do next, and your attention span is probably, at least if it's my kids, not longer than 10 minutes. So complacency, I think youth will ensure that we are not complacent. So let me just start by saying that. Having said that, that's a glib answer. You know, I believe that some leaders, and you see some of the women leaders who guided us so well through this crisis, I think they have been so good at bringing the perspectives and being able to collaborate amongst different stakeholder groups. I believe there's a gender piece to this as well. So I think there'll be some organizations, some leaders, some countries that will actually be able to not become complacent because they're actually well led.
Yeah.
And I believe that young people particularly will ensure that society doesn't become complacent. Having said that, listen, it's a risk. There's absolutely a risk that some organizations, some countries, maybe even some societies and subsects of our world will go back to the old normal and not have as much urgency around change. My genuine belief is we've seen a new way to live, and some people will really embrace it and use it to their advantage, and the entrepreneurs and the social entrepreneurs and the youth will drive it.
Great stuff. Thank you very much. Christian.
It's a very good question. And I hope that we can all be optimistic that we won't go back to the bad defaults of the old normal. And sorry, for that to happen, we really have to enable masses to change behavior. And I think some of the good elements that came from that already came in this through this period here have been that we realize we maybe don't need that much. We don't need to travel that much. We don't we are just fine with many of the things that we have, and like the overconsumption. And like I think this is a way for us as a society to pause and look up and say, like, what, you know, the back to Joonas's point of touristing within your own neighborhood almost, but own country, like that. There is I'm hopeful that we can enable the masses to change behavior afterwards. I know my answer is a little wavy, but I'm trying to run it through here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Of course, there is a big risk of defaulting back to what we know, because we are all animals of habits. But it's super important that we
okay.
we embrace the new.
Thank you, Christian. No, we feel that you agree with the question. You agree that there's a risk, and you also are hoping, like Colleen, who asked the question, you're also hoping we find a way not to. You know, you could also ask a friend. So I wonder if anybody wanted to help Christian out. Do you have an answer for Christian on the complacency thing? Either Maria, Audrey, or Joonas. We have more questions, don't worry, but if you wanted to chime in. Say?
I get to call a friend?
Yeah. Yes, you
Saved
do.
by one of my 3 options.
Absolutely.
Can I ask the audience?
Yes, you can.
Take 50-50.
Yes, you can. So I just want to give a chance if anybody wanted to chime in. Asheesh has helped out on this question. Anybody else want to chime in?
I can give my comment from Estonia. I would say that, like, us over here, we're quite lucky already, because we were kind of developing fast and have been digitalizing our governance, for example, for quite some time now. So there's, you know, things have been moving all along.
Yeah.
However, I see that this crisis, coming back to the role models, then actually has enabled to create some new role models and great examples of what can be done and how fast that it can be done. So, for example, we have been organizing a bunch of hackathons over here, and some of the solutions have been like implemented by the government just weeks after they were first born. So things can be done fast if everybody's on board. And I hope that next Estonian unicorn maybe was born just during this crisis. So I think that in Estonia, for example, and I hope that this is the case in many other countries as well, is that those new companies, those new initiatives have already been created. So people are already working on them. So there's no way of going back for them, at least.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Now, there's several things that people have just said that connecting really nice dots. You talked about how governance is evolving. Asheesh also made a comment as well about governance just now. And I think there's a question here that could also be a nice thread to connect to these things. So Rodrigo wants to highlight He says, how do you believe gender equality in organizations will evolve? We see that the countries that are better performing are the ones with women as leaders. Now, do you think this might be somehow mirrored in organizations? And I mean, in the governance of organizations. So who would like to take this one? I know that, again, Maria, you've kind of touched upon it. Anybody else want to answer more directly? Do you believe we might see a mirroring in the governance of organizations from what we've learned during this pandemic? Will we have more Audreys and Marias?
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Yemi. Just maybe to just touch on that, I feel like this pandemic has shown us that women are also capable. They're also capable to become driving forces. They're also capable to maybe drive change. And moving forward, we're going to see a lot of women take part, take up roles in governance, take up, responsibilities. So it's not going to be easy, but I feel like we're going to see more women take up that, especially in government. And most importantly, maybe men, the male counterparts also respecting them to that regard. So it's a matter of women that are going to step up, because I feel like women are more compassionate, especially when dealing with the pandemic. So we're going to see more of that, more of them wanting to step up and take up roles in establishing stuff going forward.
Brilliant, thank you. So just in case anybody is losing track, we're now in the phase of the conversation where we're talking about what kind of world we can build. And so we've talked about many things actually, but most recently we talked about how we're moving faster. Adana, if you can please mute your microphone. So we're all family here. So Adana, please mute your microphone. Thank you. So we talk about a world where things move faster from ideation to implementation. We talked about working together more collaboration. We talked about consumer patterns changing. We talked about business models changing. And now we've just talked about more women leaders. So not only more women actually being seen in leadership positions, but the male counterparts respecting them more, accepting them more. So this is all speaking to what kind of world we can build. So again, thank you for that. I'd like to know if, okay, Roland has a question. So let's give Roland some love here. Roland's saying, for those in the NGO space, do you have blueprints that can be replicated in other locations or communities, or for those in businesses? Do you plan to scale up some of what you're doing right now? And he prefaces his comments by saying, you all have very interesting projects going on, bravo. So do you have stuff that you think can be replicated? Yeah, who would like to take that?
Maria, this one's for you. Come on, you can do it.
I was thinking, like, should we turn it into a sales pitch or not?
You can sell
yes,
all you want. Go for it, Maria.
Yes, you can.
Well, firstly, like my main business is in Edumus, which is helping working professionals to go to schools to teach. So what we have created is a training platform and a software which will enable all of that. And our goal is to firstly enrich education and secondly eliminate or at least relieve the problem of lack of teachers, which is the case in Europe, but all across the world. And yeah, we are starting to license the program out, so you can reach out to me if you are interested in implementing Edumus. And when it comes to solving this infrastructure problem of devices, then this Every Student Online has taken like a more global approach as well. There are people working on it, enabling NGOs in other countries too to put those donors and people in need together. So for that, I recommend checking out everystudentonline.org, I believe it was. So yeah, and that's completely like NGO. So yeah, there are opportunities that people can take advantage of.
Good call, thank you. All right, so I think that we should start to wind down. I want to say a big thank you to everybody here. As promised, we will obviously go to everybody on the panel to please start to share your closing thoughts. So that's a warning for the panel to please get ready. We've covered a few topics and spaces here, and the conversation will continue. But for today, if we can almost go in reverse order from the beginning to kind of get some closing thoughts. Christian, I hope you know that means you're up. So to the audience, thank you. You've really been amazing. Really been amazing. I'm just buying Christian some time. You've really been amazing. So thank you for the questions and the comments, and you can keep posting in the feed. So the anonymous was someone called Suhaib. I think Suhaib is in Karachi. So thank you, Suhaib, for the beautiful question that you shared earlier. So let's just go back to our panelists to share with us some closing thoughts on some of what we've discussed today. So it's Christian first, then Joonas, Maria, Audrey, and then Asheesh. So, Christian.
I will start with a simple quote that motivates me when it's difficult or through tough times, and that is simple but very profound, saying, "This too will pass, and it's darkest before dawn. It's always darkest before dawn." Right? We will get through this, and we will come out stronger. And I think one of the elements that I'm so grateful for having being part of JA is developing character. And I think we will see character on the individual plan, and we will also see character on organizational and corporate level, seeing their true colors, if you will, of who's going to do the right thing, who's going to enable us to be part of solutions and not problems. So I'm very grateful to JN and for this opportunity, because my character has definitely been defined and developed through the program and the dots that came as events in my life afterwards.
Brilliant. Thank you, Christian. Joonas.
Thank you for buying me time so I could wind up this.
It was so well put. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, the whole webinar here. I'm going to be a little bit more specific on our industry and kind of say that we do believe that the hospitality and travel will bounce back eventually, and kind of during this period, just to kind of keep positive and keep on innovating your products and your environments, and kind of the ones who will survive this will be much stronger and have a kind of competitive advantage towards the rest in the industry. And I'm going to quote on Geoff Donaghy, the CEO of ICC, which said that virtual meetings will replace real meetings when real honeymoons replace real honeymoons. So.
Please say that again, because I think you mixed up virtual and real. Say it again so we have a clean shot. Just start again. Pause.
Virtual meetings will replace real meetings when virtual honeymoons replace real honeymoons.
Powerful. Thank you. Are you done with your thoughts? Was there anything else you wanted to share?
No, I think just as stated many times, multiple times here, that we're here in this together as a global human being, and kind of keep on supporting your entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in your local areas and in your network, because believe it or not, that means a lot, both on a mental and let's say business perspective.
Brilliant. Thank you, Joonas. Maria.
You're muted, Maria.
Yeah, I don't have any good jokes to add, but Joonas did an excellent job already. I would come back to what we already mentioned, that the problems and opportunities have never been clearer before. So changing the world for someone is easiest as it ever has been. So I would encourage just everybody to take initiative.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Maria. Audrey?
Yes, I'd like to say it's been a pleasure to be part of this discussion. And I'd like to say the youth are the future. You know, without the youth being the driving force, we're going to be stranded at the end of the day. So the youth are the future moving forward. So now more than ever, it's important for us to invest in entrepreneurship, to invest in our young people, and especially maybe integrating entrepreneurship into their studies back at school. So that's one thing to look forward to, that now more than ever, we need to look forward to our youth, and us as young people, we should take up that role, that active role, and stop being complacent and take up the responsibility that has been placed upon us.
Love it,
Thank
man.
you.
Call to action. Sorry, I always get excited. So thank you. I loved it. Thank you so much. Asheesh, please.
I want to start by just sort of saying that I believe our generation will be judged by how we respond to this crisis and how we create the new normal. And as we reflect on what that really means, I think, we've been talking a lot about how behavior change happens. We've been talking about it in terms of complacency. Will people be complacent? What will create this change of behavior that's so fundamental? We've talked about that with regards to even, will there be more women leaders?
Yeah.
Will we change our behavior to observe what has happened, and will we actually change our behavior? And I just want to remind everyone, as we reflect on how our generation will be judged by this, behavior change happens when we observe and learn from seeing and learning by doing. So I believe that we now have had a learning by doing experience by virtue of working from home from this crisis.
Yeah.
And that may change some behaviors. I think Joonas is absolutely right. It will not change honeymoons, but it will probably change some behaviors. And we've got to make sure that the behaviors that change actually build a more just and equitable society, not just a more digital society.
Yeah.
And I want us to reflect on that as my last comment. Thank you.
Powerful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So special thank you. If we could do a virtual round of applause to our speakers. Thank you for helping us to be brave and to embrace this. We're all, at least I can speak for myself, trying to recover from the shock of what is our reality, this pandemic, and maybe the shock of what our new normal might be. But after the shock must come action. And we can't wait for the problems to go away. We all have a role to play. I want to echo what Audrey said, that everybody can do something. You've shown that today. You shaped this conversation, whether as a discussion leader, a speaker, or someone who just dialed in. Your questions, your comments, your energy have created this beautiful conversation. So thank you all. The conversation will continue in future Shape the World sessions and also on social media. So please join us on the next Shape the World. If you follow us on social media, you know where it is, or if you're in our mailing lists. We will also post a poll. There's a poll live now on social media, not enough energy in it, so we'll repost it and see if we can get some more and let you know the feedback. For this video, once it's ready, we'll post it out on social media so you can see the video. Please share it so more people know that they can also play a role to shape the world. And you can also join us inside UPG. So it's unitedpeople.global/join. It's a community of people who believe that everybody can do something. Doesn't matter how small. And it's free to join. So please check us out, join us. Or if you know somebody who's a bit crazy like me, whether in your home or in your neighborhood or at work, just send them to me, all right? So thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time today. Please stay home, stay safe, and let us continue to shape the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Yemi.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Bye.
Bye, everyone.